Most brands settle for good enough email strategies and flows that were set up by some random agency in 2023 and haven't been looked at since. But most D2C brands that I speak to are losing customers before they even reach their second purchase. Now, after managing email marketing for dozens of 7- and 8-figure D2C brands, I've noticed more and more brands making these 5 mistakes that's costing them tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars per month just because they're not aware that they're actually making the mistakes. Now in this video, I'm going to share those top 5 mistakes, and I'm also going to share how to fix them and some advanced strategies that we're using inside of our agency that's generating hundreds of thousands of dollars per month for our 7- and 8-figure brand partners. So let's dive in. Okay guys, so mistake number 1 is focusing too much on unsubscribe rates, missing out on revenue opportunities by just prioritizing the wrong things. Now what goes wrong here? Well, teams suppress sends out of fear of unsubscribes. High intent flows are then throttled with smart sending. Customers who are actively shopping end up just getting under contacted, which means left sales. And high margin revenue opportunities are missed. And then you end up focusing more on unsubscribes than revenue driven. We have got a couple clients who have said, hey, we don't want to send too many more times because we don't want unsubscribes to increase, but their revenue from email and their revenue from each campaign is like $5,000 to $10,000. It's like the opportunity lost of not sending one extra email a week is like $20,000 a month or $30,000 or $40,000 a month. But the cost of those people unsubscribing is zero because they probably wouldn't have purchased in the first place anyways. Now, real world example here, we audited a skincare brand's klaviyo account and found that they were using smart sending on their abandoned checkout. And by taking a look at the data, we found that they were skipping about 22% of potential abandoned checkout emails. This is one of their highest converting flows, and they're skipping 22% of people just because they're scared of unsubscribes. Now, the fix here is optimizing for net revenue per recipient and complaint rate, not for raw unsubscribe rate. 2 is excluding your most recent complainers and non-openers, but never suppressing those people from checkout or abandoned cart flows. 3 is disabling smart sending. Please, for the love of God, disable your smart sending on high intent automations like the abandoned checkout flow, like the welcome series, and like the browse abandonment flow. I don't even know why that's a feature, but it should not be. Now, all you need to do here is go into your desired flow, click on the desired email that you want to turn this off for, and then go ahead and make sure that skip recently emailed profiles is off. Now, the reason I'm zooming in like this is just I don't want to share any client information, but that is exactly how you do this. Okay, so mistake number 2 is not re-engaging unengaged subscribers. So just letting your list go cold will massively impact the deliverability and revenue. Inactive subscribers aren't just non-converting, but they're actually actively damaging your sender reputation and deliverability. This is really, really important. Okay, so what goes wrong here? Well, your old unengaged segments are tanking your deliverability. What happens is ESPs will look at what's happening on average with people who are receiving your emails. If a lot of people aren't opening, they're going to be like, maybe it's just not relevant, or maybe they're sending spam, or maybe they're just not caring about the customer or not keeping people engaged, which is true of the last thing for sure. The second thing is future emails end up getting pushed into the spam folder, which is exactly what happens if number 1 happens. The third is attributed revenue shrinks because you're getting in front of less people, because you're going to spam, because you have lower deliverability score. And then finally, your customer experience suffers here. Now, real world example here, a fashion client came to us with deliverability issues. We've had this happen a ton of times actually, but their open rates had dropped from around 25 to 30%, which honestly is not great, to below 10% in just 3 months. What we discovered is that they had never run a re-engagement campaign or ever cleaned their list, and they had increased their sending volume, and they were sending to a ton of people who were just hella unengaged. List cleaning is super, super boring, but they had over 40,000 people on their list that were just hella unengaged. Now, we've done audits for brands. I recently did one, it was like 2 weeks ago, where they had over 1.3 million people on their list that were unengaged. They were paying an absurd amount of money to have these people on their list, and they were not only just a little bit unengaged, but they were like, dude, you're dead to the world unengaged. Now, those are just a kind of few examples there that we've seen recently. Now, the fix here is running quarterly re-engagement sequences with an offer or a clear stay subscribed CTA. This is kind of outside of just having a win back flow or having a sunset flow. The second is offering channel preference choices. So email frequency or SMS options. This can be a really cool one as well. If you actually use this when when people ask to be suppressed, or when people ask to only receive one email a week, that kind of thing. If you ask and then you don't, it's like, all right, cool. Thanks, bro. Third is including strong incentives for that re-engagement. Fourth is sunsetting those non-engagers and then just removing invalid addresses. At the end of the day, so many people flex how big their list is, but no one cares if no one's buying from it. Like at the end of the day, we want to make sure that the people who are on the list are buyers and people who are actively engaged with the brand. The final thing here is just warm your domain back up with smaller engaged cohorts before you start scaling those sends. So if you are in the kind of like doghouse here, you have 5%, 10%, 20% open rates, you're in trouble, and you need to make sure you're warming that up really slowly with like a 30-day engaged audience. Try using text-only campaigns, try minimizing the amount of images, the amount of links that you're sending. There's a lot of things you can do here, but that's really, really important. So in terms of actually implementing this, there's a few things that we can do here. You can go ahead and build out some win back flows or re-engagement flows. And then, like I said, the sunset flow, but you can also send to specific segments, just send campaigns to those people. And it can work really well if you do it this way too, because you can kind of test out different offers and see what works well and see what doesn't work all that well. Now, what you're going to want to do is look at segmenting based off of engagement recency, and then customizing your message based off of kind of like how long they've been unengaged for and or how unengaged they are. Two is just escalating the incentives. This is a really easy one. Like if people are opening, if they're clicking, good, we're getting them back engaged. But if they aren't purchasing, okay, what can we do to increase that incentive to reduce the barrier to entry? If they've purchased before, okay, let's make sure they actually like the product. If they haven't purchased before, okay, cool. What can we do to just lower that barrier, increase the trust, increase the social proof? And I mean, at the end of the day, maybe offer them a higher discount. And then three is just setting clear sunset policies. So basically just making your sunset unengaged audience. There is a video on how to create the sunset flow on my YouTube channel. If you want to check that out, it will save you a lot of money just because you're getting rid of all the people who are not engaged, and it'll also save your deliverability. So 2 wins. Next thing here is mistake number 3. So mistake number 3 is treating email as a completely independent system. When email is operating as like a separate silo of your business, it's not going to work as well as if when you're planning a sale on Meta or planning a sale on Google or whatever it is, you plan on email as well, because then you can just look at things holistically. And also, whether it's like a sale or a promo, that's one thing, but the big thing is making sure the teams are communicating with each other too, right? Email works really well when it's synced with paid media, and your on-site experience, and then overall customer journey as well. It's not like the greatest when it's just a completely isolated channel. It'll still work, but it'll work better when it's working in like congruently with these other channels. So what goes wrong here? Well, email operates in a silo from paid media, Site Zero, and LTV strategy. Offer sequencing and creative don't really match the funnel stage or the traffic source. A really interesting thing that we've done with some clients too, and it kind of depends on where traffic is coming from, but looking at how we can segment and looking at how we can address different objections based off of where people are coming from. If someone comes from social media, for example, like an organic view, and it's like a viral post, lower intent, so they need a different warming sequence, right? Versus someone who comes from a Google search. Third thing is just conversion lift is reduced, so we can also increase conversion rate if everything is synced up as well, because there's something called like a ad sense. So if someone sees an ad on Meta, you want to make sure that scent is carried through so that it smells the same, it looks the same, it is the same. If you have an offer on Meta where it's like, get 20% off your first purchase, and then you hit the website and it's like, get 10% off your first purchase, and then you get a campaign and it's like, you don't get anything off your first purchase. People are gonna be like, what the fuck? Like, what? It's just so unclear, right? Now, that's really, really important, making sure whatever the ad promises are is actually fulfilled in the post-click experience. So on your website and in your email sequence. Real world example here, a healthy soup brand that we were working with was running Meta ads featuring specific product benefits, but their welcome flow highlighted completely different benefits. Now, what we started doing is gathering zero-party data for them, and then we shared that data with the ads team. And then basically by aligning their ads team with this number one desired outcome, which actually ended up being gut health, we increased revenue by 3x. And this was like literally within a month. We had started to collect this data. We started to look at the data, and then it was like 80 or 85% of the people who had submitted this zero-party data were like, we want better gut health. But they were talking all about like how our soup is so great because it's vegan or how it's convenient. And like, it's like, no one really cares. What people really care about is like the gut health stuff. And that's where we shared that with the team. They implemented that on the ad strategy. We implemented that with the email strategy. And then Bob's your uncle. We were just absolutely ripping, and we were able to 3x in like literally a month or two. The fix here: gather zero-party data in the pop-up, curate a welcome flow narrative based off of that pop-up and based off of what people say in that pop-up, the zero-party data that they provide you. Usually a great jumping off point here is what their desired outcome is, especially if it's a supplement brand or like food brand or something like that. Like I said, sync ad promises to email storytelling, feed that first-party data and zero-party data back to the media team, back to your paid ads team, and then coordinate those promotional calendars across channels as well. Now, mistake number 4 is overcomplicating flows, suppressions, and opt-in logic. Simple is really powerful, and I am honestly an avid believer that just doing something simply just makes a lot more sense. There's a lot of brands that I've audited. More brands don't have it set up right at all, but like there's some brands that I've audited where I'm like, oh my God, like what is going on here? Why does this need to be this complicated? The answer is it does not need to be this complicated. Complex automation can not only like reduce the touch points because you might have gaps within that automation if you're doing exclusions or something like that. And it'll also, instead of like actually improving customer experience, it can also decrease customer experience if people aren't getting the right things at the right time, or if it's overcomplicated. It just doesn't need to be for the most part, unless you've got an enormous brand and you've got a bunch of different SKUs that are very, very unrelated. It usually doesn't make sense. So what goes wrong here? Double opt-in. Oh God, please turn off your double opt-in. It reduces conversions dramatically and it is not necessary. Combining email and SMS flows into one. This creates a lot of confusion as to like what's working and what's not. Smart sending logic, like I mentioned before, checkout and abandoned cart emails are often merged into one and often just under optimized as well. Okay, real world example here. I've seen brands use crazy complex abandoned cart flows with both email and SMS in the same flow, and then also under a bunch of other branches. Basically what ends up happening is like, if you don't have your conditional logic absolutely dialed, you end up missing out on a ton of people. I was auditing one recently and they were missing out on like 70% of people who are adding to cart or abandoning their checkout, I should say. And like, just because the conditional logic was not set up properly, right? And I looked at that and I was like, why are you getting so many people into the flow, but so few people actually sending? It wasn't because people were purchasing. It was because like they just weren't receiving it because they weren't qualifying based off of the conditional logic that they had set up because it was wrong. So more often than not, it's just a waste of resources. I'd recommend just keeping it simple until it makes sense to really start to kind of scale beyond that. Honestly, maybe in the mid 8-figure range, it starts to make sense to like really increase complexity. There is some cool stuff you can do. A lot of times it's just a waste of resources. Okay, so what is the actual fix here? Number 1, use single opt-in with good deliverability hygiene, i.e. make sure you're doing your list cleaning, make sure you're cleaning the list, make sure you have your sunset, make sure you have your win-back flows. Separating email and SMS pass. Again, this will provide more clarity for you about what's working and what's not. There is like some benefits to including them all in one flow, but honestly, it just keeps things so much clearer. The other thing is just creating different flows for cart versus abandoned checkout. And then also making sure that people who are in the abandoned checkout and who opt in through the Shopify page aren't also getting added into the welcome series. I've seen that so many times because the list that people get added to at the checkout phase is the same list that people get added to with the pop-up, which means when they opt in, they're getting added to the welcome series because that's the trigger for the welcome series. It's a shit show. Not good, not a good customer experience because those people have different levels of intent. So for the abandoned checkout, what I recommend using just as a very simple 4-step sequence is simple reminder, 30 minutes to maybe an hour at most. Email 2 would be social proof and credibility. This is going to be 22 to 24 hours later. Email 3 is just objection handling. And then email 4 is addressing that price objection. So again, we're spacing this out over the course of 3 or 4 days. It's really important. Mistake number 5. This is maybe the biggest mistake that I see brands make, is just neglecting deliverability and domain and list integrity. This is so important, but Poor technical setup will lead you to ending up in spam, and you're just gonna like lose out on so much campaign ROI and flow ROI as well. Even the best email copy, the best design, the best strategy will not matter at all if you don't even get to the inbox. Okay, so what goes wrong here? If you're using shared sending domains, that's no bueno. No block list monitoring. You should be looking at this and making sure you're not added to any block lists. And if you are, seeing if you can remove yourself. Mailing stale or purchase lists, please, for the love of God, do not buy lists. It will never work, or it will, like, maybe you'll get like a sale or two, but it's not going to work very well. And it's also going to dramatically harm your deliverability. You haven't set up your authentication properly, i.e. your DKIM, your DMARC, your SPF, and you haven't made sure that you've actually authenticated your domain. All of these things will erode your inbox placement. You're going to end up in spam, and what it's going to show up as isn't like marked as spam. It's going to show up as low open rates. And a lot of brands don't even realize they have a deliverability issue, and they're like, oh, we should test our subject lines. It's like, no, you actually have a deliverability issue. You aren't even getting to the inbox. So very, very, very important there. If you start with anything, start with that thing. Seriously. The fix here, use a custom sending domain. This is like mandatory now with Klaviyo. Implement proper domain authorization. So SPF and DKIM, if you're using Klaviyo, should be set up automatically for you. Check and make sure. There's sometimes some weird errors that go on. Check and make sure. Setting up your DMARC is also very important. And then monitoring those block lists. You can use a couple of different tools here, but basically just search for like email block lists or domain health checks. There's a bunch of different ones. We use like DMartian to check DMARC. And then there's like domain sender reputation. There's a bunch of different ones you can use here. Hard bounces are automatically going to be removed if you're using Klaviyo. Soft bounces are also really important to prune out. So i.e. people who have a full inbox or things like that, making sure those people are getting out, and then rewarming the engaged segments before scaling those sends up. So if you do have a deliverability issue, please don't just keep blasting the same people. We want to make sure that we're rewarming those engaged segments and then rewarming the people who were really unengaged and the people who were even a little bit unengaged before you start scaling the sends up. Okay, now if you want to take this to the next level, here's some advanced strategies that are working right now. If you don't have those first 5 things dialed in, focus on those first 5 things. These are some advanced strategies though that we're using right now and proven tactics that can absolutely crush it for D2C brands. So for fashion and apparel brands specifically, these are 2 strategies that work really well. One is just value-led abandoned cart flows. Abandoned cart, abandoned checkout, could be even browse abandonment that just address specific objections. So this could be size and fit concerns. If you're selling dresses, if you're selling pants or anything like that, like what are the main concerns that people are going to have? Well, size and fit, material quality, styling and versatility, right? Like I was just chatting with an apparel brand today, and like guys typically like they just want to be given an outfit to wear. I know a lot of my outfits come from my fiance, and I'm just like, all right, cool, we're good to go. I don't need to think about it, right? And I know I've also purchased this from like Built or Cuts. Makes it really easy when they just give me an outfit and they're like, yo, here, just buy this thing and you're good to go. I'm like, oh, it looks good together, perfect. I don't have to think about it. So styling versatility is really, really beneficial. And then return policy clarity. So I know this is a big thing for a lot of apparel brands. So making sure that the return policy is super clear, but also making sure that your return like people aren't just buying a bunch of shit and then returning half of it. That's pretty rough, because I know some of the apparel brands that we work with are like, 20% returns. It's like, that's going to hurt. And now in terms of the post-purchase flows, a lot of things that you can do here is just like care recommendations, care instructions, and then styling ideas as well. You can use these as cross sells. You can use these as upsells, and then care instructions. This is like, hey, don't throw your new sweater into the dryer or whatever it is. If there's certain care instructions, if you have very specific materials, make sure that people actually understand that so that they don't ruin their clothes essentially. Right? So they're happy about their products. In terms of the beauty and skincare strategies, there's so much that we can do here, but objection focused emails addressing like skin sensitivity concerns, things like that, results timelines. So like what to expect with clear visuals of like 7 days in, 14 days in, 21 days in, whatever. Ingredient transparency and educational content. This works really, really well because like people care about this stuff. Depending on the brand, like people will really care. Application techniques. So like, again, just like value-based content before and after on social media. Another really great one here is segmenting based off of people's desired outcomes. So you might sell skincare or you might sell a supplement, whatever it is, and there might be different reasons why people are shopping. Like some people could be shopping because, you know what, I'm just going to use the soup company as an example. Maybe some people are shopping for gut health. Some people are shopping because it's vegan. Some people are shopping because it's convenient. Some people are shopping because of, they want higher protein, right? Okay, well, why don't we create specific segments, and why don't we create specific tailored flows for those people so that we are addressing their specific objections right away. And we're also resonating specifically with their pain points, right? So a lot we can do there, a lot of opportunity with those types of strategies. In terms of all verticals for the most part, simplified flows, just simplify them. A lot of times this will help. I've got into some people's flows and I'm like, you guys have 45 flows and half of them aren't sending. And some of them are, and they're sending at the same time as other ones. It ends up being a mess. Deliverability first operations. Again, go back to the deliverability section, but this is really important, making sure you have a mix of images and text, and that like you're not including a lot of spam content. So go to a spam checker to make sure that a lot of the content and a lot of the copy that you're using is not being flagged by spam. This is very important. Life cycle alignment with paid media. This can be really, really cool. There's so many things you can do here. And then finally here, just regular testing and optimization. A lot of the things I mentioned are going to be true across pretty much every brand. However, it's beneficial to test certain things. If you want to know where to test what, I also have a video on my YouTube channel that runs through kind of like core metrics and deliverables that you're looking at with email. It really just depends on how things are performing and what's performing the worst. And that's going to determine what you actually want to test. Okay, so the 5 critical mistakes that we covered here is focusing too much on unsubscribe rates, not re-engaging unengaged subscribers, treating email like a completely independent system, overcomplicating flows, neglecting deliverability. And the good news is all of these things are very fixable. I've seen some crazy shit with email and we were able to fix it. If you want to do it yourself, go ahead. There's a bunch of videos in my YouTube channel that go through all of these different things. But if you do want a personalized audit and you have a brand doing at least $50,000 a month in revenue, you don't want to do it yourself, go ahead, click the link below this video. You can book in a free strategy call now, and I'd be happy to kind of walk through everything. Again, if you qualify, we'll give you a 75-point audit of all of the things that are going on in your e-commerce system. So hopefully this resonated with you. Hopefully you guys got a lot of value from this video, and I hope you have a great day, and we will chat soon.